the Hatman. More and more people claim to have experienced some kind of paranormal activity. For centuries, people have been talking, but only in these current times, people have been interested in studying these topics. In this way, stories related to these themes and mysterious figures, such as the case of the Hatman, are also common. The Hatman is a dark entity that many claim to have seen. Many describe him as a kind of human-shaped silhouette dressed in black, which is characterized by wearing a flat-brimmed hat. Its origin is unknown, but the reality is that even psychics do not want to talk about this terrifying figure, which some experts have described as pure evil, because apparently this identity feeds on the energy of our fears, which have even led to the death of some of his victims. But what really is the Hatman? A ghostly apparition? A demon? Some kind of interdimensional being? An alien? Or Satan himself? Despite the fact that there is talk that this may be a psychological hallucination, it is quite striking that people who do not know each other and who live in different parts of the world have similar experiences in which they see this so-called Hatman. It is said that this even served as an inspiration for director Wes Craven when creating Freddy Krueger. He himself claims to have seen the Hatman when he was little. Craven spoke about an experience he had when he was a child, in which he saw, out the window of his house, a scary-looking man walking down the street wearing a flat-brimmed hat. Apparently, this strange presence had a terrifying face, difficult to describe, and when he looked directly at young Craven, he felt a fear that he had never experienced. Interestingly, Craven's experience matches that of thousands of people around the world, who after seeing the shadowy person known as the Hatman, they say they feel a sense of fear or panic, as if their lives are in grave danger. The following is a story about the Hatman from Reddit by Layla Moonster 10 years ago. This is an absolutely true story from when I was very young, and one of the few brushes with the paranormal I've ever had. I must have been no older than 3 or 4, because this occurred at a house my family and I moved out of shortly after I was that age. I only have this and a select few other memories of living there. I was lying in my bed, which was lengthwise on the same wall as the door into my room, which was right at the foot of my bed. The hall light was on, so there was a bit of that light shining through the door. I wasn't fully asleep yet when I heard a noise and opened my eyes to see what was going on. There, standing in the hallway light from the door, was a black figure that appeared to be a man with what looked like a fedora-type hat on. I could clearly see arms and legs, which, aside from the hat, is oddly why I assumed it was a male. The figure was darker than dark, a full matte shadow. He had no facial features, save for 2 holes in his face where his eyes were supposed to be. And the weird thing about the eyes, they were just these holes in his head. And the light from the hallway shone right through them. When I finally did move, it was to throw the covers up over my head. I closed my eyes and prayed that whatever it was would go away. My heart was beating like crazy. I feared he was going to hurt or kill me. When I removed the blanket and timidly opened one eye to see if the figure was still there, I was relieved to see that he had gone away. The only person I ever told about this incident was my mom years later. And she just told me that my father had probably wandered into my room drunk or something. So I blew it off and lived the rest of my life believing that I must have been dreaming and didn't think to tell anyone else about what had happened that fateful night. Then one day, I was at a paranormal panel at an anime convention, and someone brought up what they call shadow people. If you don't already know about shadow people, they're speculated to be interdimensional beings, bad omens, guardian angels, demons, aliens, etc. Basically, they're not from this world. It all depends on who you talk to, though. I didn't know anything about them at the time, but I thought they sounded really creepy. A few people shared their personal shadow people accounts, and the thing that struck me the most deeply was that most everyone who has seen these shadow people reported that they were wearing some kind of hat, from a top hat to Zorro-style hats, and even full hoods. There was one other person in the room who said he'd seen a fedora-type hat-wearing man at the foot of his bed when he was young as well. And all of this was before I had ever said a single word about my own experience. I had a short conversation with the other guy who had seen the fedora-type hat man after the panel, and told him I'd had the same exact thing happen to me. He asked me if anything bad had happened to me after I saw him, because apparently shadow people were supposed to be bad omens. I told him not that I could remember. He then told me his parents had separated after he saw the Hatman in his room. We ended up going our separate ways, but I kept thinking about what he said. Later that night, it hit me. The reason my mother, sisters, and I moved out of the house I saw Hatman in was because my father was an abusive alcoholic, and my mother took us and left soon after I'd seen the Hatman. They got a divorce shortly after. Since then, I've done tons of research on shadow people and the Hatman, who has been seen by thousands of other people in similar situations to mine. But there's no conclusive evidence as to who they are, why they're here, and whether or not they're malevolent. Here's a cool image I found that kind of matched what I saw when I was a kid. Maybe they come here from their dimension to warn us. And maybe Fedora Guy's speciality is watching over broken homes. Or maybe they're demons, and are the cause for the bad omens they have become a unanimous sign of. Or they could be aliens, watching the human race, and manifesting as humanoids with hats on so they don't seem so strange to us. Maybe they watch us all every single night, and only a few people open their eyes in time to see them. From Reddit. This is from Tujor Pretke. I've had a dozen episodes of sleep paralysis throughout my life. All were accompanied by feelings of panic and dread. Naturally, my experience with the Hatman happened during one such event. Afternoon naps were a normal part of my young life, and this particular nap took place about 35 years ago in a first-floor bedroom. I was awakening from a deep sleep, facing a window. I came to the realization that I could look out the window into the front yard, but could not move any part of my body, even to speak. Before I could gain the use of any voluntary muscles, a man wearing a fedora-style hat and a long coat slowly walked by the window from the right to the left. All the while, as this man walked past my window, he pivoted his head to maintain direct eye contact with me. Knowing that this person's presence was highly irregular, I was filled with a deep feeling of dread. This man wearing a hat absolutely exuded a strong essence of malevolence. After becoming fully awake and functional, the cobwebs of this encounter blew away in the late summer evening breeze. But I knew it actually happened. This was a decade before the World Wide Web brought instant information into nearly every household. About 20 years after this particular afternoon nap, I first read about the Hatman on the internet. I immediately made the connection, and I knew that for some reason, the Hatman came to visit me. I've never seen the Hatman, nor any other shadow person, since that night. Maybe that's a good thing. I guess we'll never know. Sleep tight. Don't let the Hatman bite. Well, what do you think? Is the Hatman a demon, an alien, or something else? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and if you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe. Sleep tight. Good night.